Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Dialogue. I'm Taimur Shamil. This is no secret that India has been instigating, financing, and supporting terrorism and extremism in Afghanistan and some parts of Pakistan. The arrest of Kulbhushan Yadav is the biggest evidence that an Indian Navy officer was operating in Pakistan, inside Pakistan, and he was arrested by the Pakistani authorities. Not just that, as I mentioned, India has been supporting, it is still supporting and financing terrorist organizations in Afghanistan. TTP, Jamaatul Ahrar for that matter, they have been financed by India. RAW has been directly involved in giving them support and managing their training camps in Afghanistan. And Pakistan has brought up this issue with the Afghan authorities that these terrorist organizations have been operating in Afghanistan and that they should be taken care of. Pakistan recently, last year, took up this case at the United Nations Security Council's terrorist list. And but interestingly, recently in a bid, Pakistan's bid was rejected, thwarted rather. That was primarily because there were few countries which thwarted Pakistan's bid. 4 countries primarily, 5 countries: United States, UK, Germany, Belgium, and France. Now, 3 of them are permanent and 2 of them are non-permanent. Their point was that there is no enough evidence on this issue, that Pakistan had designated Gobinda Patnaik and Angara Apaji, these 2 individuals who were based in Afghanistan. Now they are under the state protection inside India. They were financing terrorist organizations and individuals who were carrying out attacks inside Pakistan. Now the point is that while the whole world, Pakistan, United States, the Afghans themselves, they want to address the security situation in Afghanistan, India is playing the role of a spoiler. And as I said, this is no secret. But the most important point is that Pakistan raised up this issue, these 2 individuals, and Pakistan in future would make sure that none of the people who instigate terrorism and extremism would get away with it. We'll be discussing about this, Pakistan's diplomacy when it comes to countering extremism and terrorism, terrorist financing by the Indians in Afghanistan. Other than that, today we'll be discussing about the Indian atrocities in Indian occupied Kashmir. They continue. For the last 73 years, Kashmiris have been fighting for their right to self-determination. And this new violence, this new wave of discrimination is unprecedented in a way that now the BJP government, which is ruling with a mandate to crush the dissenting voices in Kashmir, to have a check on the spirit of freedom in Kashmir, they come with a mandate that is provided to them by the far right and extremist organizations like Shiv Sena and RSS. But at the same time, keeping in mind that the spirit of Kashmir is a spirit that is powerful more than ever. The people of Kashmir, they fight for their right to self-determination. They have been fighting for their right to self-determination and they would continue to do that. Pakistan stands with the people of Kashmir. Pakistan stands with the people of Kashmir on the Kashmir cause. And this is Pakistan's top priority, Pakistan's top of the list agenda when it comes to Pakistan's foreign policy and national security. We are joined by our special guest today, and we'll be discussing about all these points that I just mentioned. Our first guest is Dr. Saif Malik, a renowned analyst, and he's the director of India Studies Center at the Institute of Strategic Studies, Islamabad. Welcome to the show, Dr. Malik.
Thank you.
Our second guest is Dr. Waleed Rasool, renowned senior Kashmiri leader and expert on Kashmir affairs. Welcome to the show, Dr. Rasool. And on phone call, we are joined by Ambassador Shahid Kiani, renowned senior diplomat and expert on Pakistan's foreign policy. I welcome Ambassador Kiani as well. Dr. Malik, starting with this development primarily, I would say on the diplomatic front, the 5 countries which thwarted Pakistan's bid to designate these 2 individuals that I just mentioned, Indian citizens who were instigating extremism and terrorism in Afghanistan, as a diplomatic move, first of all, how do you see it? And calling out India that they have been supporting extremism and terrorism, how important is that at the moment for Pakistan?
Okay, thank you, Taimur, for giving me this opportunity.
Welcome.
I think if you go through the statement of spokesperson of Pakistan Foreign Office yesterday, he very clearly outlined the whole scenario and mentioned what all were the motives once this case was filed with the UN Security Council and what are the objectives behind that. As you very rightly mentioned, two very high valued target, the person who were involved in the terrorism in Pakistan. Pakistan has provided all the evidences. There are financial evidences, there are traveling documents, and there are the contacts and all activities those were submitted. And Pakistan provided them this evidence because Pakistan believed that this whole region in general and the world in particular has to free from terrorism and extremism. That is why Pakistan has taken up this case. But it was sort of once this was blocked, so that was regretted on the plea that the whole world is supporting all those moves which are in connection with bringing peace and stability and all those vulnerabilities to be brought in all those fora which are responsible. So that is why Pakistan brought that case. Right. And secondly, once that case was blocked by the countries which you have mentioned, Pakistan very expressively and overtly mentioned that this move that reflect a question on the standing of the organization. The reason is if you politicize it, then the whole world is looking at this forum. If it is politicized, then it means the disputes and other matters, whosoever is approaching these bodies, if this is politicized, then what will be the fate of those activities? So this is something which Pakistan has sensitized to the Committee of the Nations. Then whenever such like issues are brought along with the evidences, then there is no reason for blocking such like activities. So this is a sort of success story on behalf of Pakistan.
Dr. Rasool, this point is very important that Dr. Malik just raised up. Why this duplicity? Because everybody knows India's role of a spoiler in Afghanistan, and these countries, United States, UK, France, Germany and Belgium, interestingly they are part of the NATO. And they are fighting longest war, United States longest war anywhere ever. Pakistan wants an end to this, but why this duplicity when it comes to designating the Indian terrorists who were operating over there?
Thank you, Taimur. Actually, this is not first time what it happened, but we say it is the first time that we brought it in the United Nations Security Council. If you go to the grid of Indian system, political system which is working presently under the command of the Modi, the grid is Sangh Parivar. And what they are doing covertly and overtly is not now secret. As you mentioned already, the Kulbhushan Yadav case and his directly involved attachment with the Indian Navy. And secondly, when we say that it was after 9/11, the situation created by the universal superpower America. Now, interesting point is that Russia, who is supplying the maximum arms to India, was silent in this case. And again, China is already our friend. Now, there are so many confronting variables in these cases when you are putting some case in UNGC, and we will see that sometimes these countries who are the champion of the human rights, so-called human rights, when the same situation is raised from India, they are silent. And it means some sort of the international mechanism gets exposed at certain level, and we learn lesson from it. Now, what we should do, this is an important thing. We must have little bit great groundwork with our allies, with our colleagues. And our relationship with Afghanistan is very important. Our relationship with Iran is very important because they are at our borders. And India did it even since before in 1971, a book is written in which Kak was at that time the first raw chief. He was unfortunately the Kashmiri Pandit. He was congratulated by the Interior Ministry of India that you created the havoc in the Pakistan and you assembled the Mukti Bahani, and that it was the main cause of that first covert operation which India did. And again, she did it in 71 and again in 1984 when they ran to the Saichen, and same situation happened and again in the
And of course, that is their qualification, right?
Yeah.
Ambassador Kyani, talking about this bid that Pakistan made at the United Nations Security Council, how do you see this as a diplomatic move, and how important is this point to call out India and its role as a spoiler in the region, and specifically when it comes to Afghanistan, where they have been supporting and financing the terrorist organizations like TTP and Jamaat ul-Ahrar?
You're talking about, you asked a question from me because there was
Yes,
some,
Ambassador Kyani, I'm asking you.
okay, okay. Thank you very much. I've listened to my two colleagues regarding the polarization of this issue. Our spokesperson Zahid Chaudhary has rightly correctly stated and commented on that. But let me say to you, sir, if you look at into the countries, states which have to behave in a manner which in a manner which the whole world is watching regarding the issues. For example, as far as Pakistan is concerned, when we are working with the FATF for the last now maybe 1 year now, and whenever United Nations resolution on extremist elements and terrorist organizations have been shared with us, we have acted with great responsibility. All those terrorist organizations and extremists, which the United Nations pointed out and shared with Pakistan, we acted in a very responsible manner. We were able to take them to the court, get them the sentences, and all their properties were confiscated. We acted very responsibly, like any responsible state.
Right.
But here, the Indians, the other 5 countries which they have mentioned, and they were not willing to accept. The reason is very simple. You look at what is happening in the Indian occupied Kashmir. None of these developed countries have been able to voice their concern or directly talk to the Indian government as to what are you doing for the last now 1 year. So I'm not surprised that when the reason is very simple. These two individuals, Govinda Patnaik and Angara Apaji, which we have solid proof that these people are involved in Afghanistan, as you rightly said, that India is a spoiler. This Doha talks, post-Doha talks, the discussion must be creating problems for India, because if the intra-Afghan talks are successful, then the Indian plan of destabilizing Afghanistan and then in turn trying to destabilize Pakistan, they win. And this is not going to work. So, but please try to understand, it's not very easy. It's not an easy task. These are not two individuals. It links them to the Indian state, and these countries are very, very careful in trying to directly connect with the Indian state. They look at what's happening, the business interests, global business interests of these countries with India. I don't think it will be a very easy
And
task.
is it because
we have to do a little more homework than we did?
Right, Ambassador Kyani, is it because these 5 countries, they are strategically aligned with India at the moment and they need India? Perhaps India needs them.
It's very simple. Look at, you see, man, I want to give you an example. Now, look at just very simple. Look what's happening to Palestine. Meaning, it's a principal stand like our stand on the Kashmir. Look at Palestine is being left by the whole Arab world. You don't hear them now. Who's going to stand with them? At least we as a responsible country are standing, not only the people of Kashmir, with the Palestine also. So the global politics with the economic content, that's what's happening. People are going looking towards their own economic interests. They don't bother about these things. So my last thing is, we will have to do a little more homework than we did last time before sending such documents to the United Nations Security Council.
Right. Ambassador Kyani, please stay with us on phone call. Dr. Malik, many people in the region and in Pakistan, they're concerned about also concerned about the rise of the far right in Europe. And once we see the rise of the far right in Europe, we also see some kind of connection with the Indian Hindutva terrorist organizations with the far right of Europe. If you recall, there were 26 members of European Union who visited Kashmir in their personal capacity, but they visited Kashmir. Do you think that Pakistan needs to check on how these European countries are having their links, the far right of these countries, their link with the far right and extremist organizations in India? Is it a threat for the regional stability?
In fact, once we look upon how Hindutva is working and what is their methodology, then Modi and his cabinet member all are the member of RSS. So RSS inspired ideology itself is the biggest threat to the region. So we should look at the issue in the context of South Asia. So how this ideology is working, it is known to everyone.
Right.
Even they have militarized it. And these militarized elements of RSS are now being settled in Kashmir, Indian occupied Kashmir. They are given the privileges,
Yes.
and they have been militarized, and special privileges have been given. So this Hindutva itself is the biggest threat to, it is a manifestation of the expansionist designs of India, hegemonic designs of India. That is why India is today stands isolated in the region. Issues with Bangladesh and NRC, issues with Nepal on boundaries, issue with Sri Lanka, and issue with of late China, and this stand of military standoff yet going on. So this Hindutva-led ideology itself is the biggest threat to peace and stability in South Asia in general and the world in particular. So there is a need to a complete check. Rather, I must say this is the right time, and RSS is the fit case to be declared as the world global terrorist organization. We need to pursue this issue,
Right.
because what all they have done with the minorities in India, particularly Muslims in India, this year.
Absolutely, but how do you make these 5 countries who have their strategic alliance, their economic alliance with India, and as we were discussing earlier, they would not just care about human rights at all, because it's about economy. They cannot designate these 2 individuals, Indian citizens. How would they designate RSS, which is known terrorist organization?
Basically, who is at the top in the pyramid? It is the US. Once you mentioned that who all were there to block. So these countries have already been allied. You mentioned these are member of the NATO. So they might have developed consensus, and reason is Indo-US strategic alliance is no more a secret.
Right.
And this alliance is for whom? No secret. So they are pursuing their agenda, and in pursuit of their agenda, they have made a unified strategy, and they are going for that design. That is why Pakistan need to make it more proactive diplomacy, that to have a check on such like incidents in future as well.
Right. Dr. Rasool, we were talking about how India is now diplomatically isolated. There was a point when Prime Minister Modi, Indian Prime Minister, he said that they would isolate Pakistan, but we see reverse now. We see that India is getting diplomatically isolated. Their relations with China, we have recently seen another of their soldiers got killed at their border with China. Their relations with Nepal, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka for that matter, left out in the cold in Afghanistan. So basically no say. And interestingly, all their allies are at the moment outside the region, not in the region. How can the regional countries and Pakistan can call out this duplicity of India and counter the extremist mindset that is now posing a threat not just to Pakistan, but to Bangladesh and Nepal as well?
Actually, regional dynamics has already changed, and it is in the reshaping order. Number one. Number two, degree of interdependence, more the degree of interdependence between China and the Pakistan, more will be the chain gauging and the buck passing. It is an international order. Number two, when the small countries, particularly the SAARC countries, Nepal and Bhutan and Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, in regional dynamics, when they will get little oxygen in regional order, definitely their issues with the India, which were the silent, they will come on the surface. And you have seen the situation between India and Nepal, and also the position, despite there was some settlement between Bangladesh and India on the Kaveri waters and the other little issues. But when Modi government raised the settlement issues in the India, that created havoc in the Bangladesh. And Bangladesh brought that on the surface, which is now seen and dealt with. So you are seeing that there is a friction between a regional hegemon and the small countries in the eastern border and the Pakistan on the western. Now, when you see that the China is on the scene, China is rising economical power and in the race of superpower. We can say that is the second most big power of the world. So in regional sense, as Sir was saying, that Quad group has established between America, Japan, Australia and India. It is not in secret. Number two, the relation is between India and Russia, despite he is the biggest armor supplier to India. Now you have seen that they, if they are not favoring, but they are in the dormant stage. Now in United Nations Security Council, if anybody is not supporting you directly, but he is silent, it means that he is supporting you.
Right.
Now, as
but that
already,
is technical.
yeah,
The
yeah.
way Pakistan
now
and
in
Russia,
diplomacy,
Pakistan and Russia have been improving their relations.
In diplomacy, when you have you are knowing that after the Cold War, when there is a division and there is a tussle between two superior powers, the alignment is already in the place. The states with the China, and I have written a paper, the difference between the foreign policy of the India and the China dealing with it with its neighbors. And among 14 conflicts between China and its bordering nation, she has settled 20 among them. And there is only one issue with the India. She settled all. And she gave much, in spite she take little, to settle the disputes with their neighbors. And number two, there is no colonial mindset so far you are seeing in case of the China.
Right.
Third, when in our case, she is investing a huge amount in Pakistan, and her interdependence, degree of interdependence will increase, it will increase our international order. How? The countries, the states on the board of OBR, definitely when they are allies of the China, they are allies of the Pakistan.
Right.
And we will get benefit out of it.
So you suggest that the better way is to go for the development paradigm, that order, and keep buying time.
You are, Taimur, absolutely right. Our elders, particularly the present government, they shall focus on the economy.
Right.
They should build their country, they should develop their economy, because economy has the linear relationship with our international relations and the foreign policy.
Absolutely. Ambassador Kyani, this recent wave, although not new, for the last 73 years, Kashmiris have been fighting for their right to self-determination, and Pakistan supports their right to self-determination. But the new wave of violence and the way young people now in illegally occupied Indian occupied Kashmir, they are resisting that violence. This movement is indigenous. How do you see the young people in Kashmir and this movement in Kashmir, freedom movement?
First of all, yeah, okay, I'll comment on that, but first let me share with it is regret, but let me share with you. I doubt very much that India is diplomatically isolated. The way India has been branding us, neither are we diplomatically isolated, neither India. And I'll tell you why. What happened in the United Nations Security Council shows that these countries are in very close contact with India, and India are in contact with them.
Right.
The problem is when we're talking about Nepal and Bangladesh and Sri Lanka and all these countries, for the last many decades, especially during this period of Modi, when right after he took oath, he went to these smaller countries. India is breathing down the necks of these small countries. Now India is having serious difficulties, not diplomatic isolation, serious difficulties with these countries. Now, unfortunately, what has happened is that, like Nepal, which is landlocked, then Sri Lanka, LTT, past history you cannot forget. what's happening. Bangladesh, which was having a very khushy time with India, and they had been able to sort out certain boundary problems also, and the river problems also. The fact that these countries have to coexist with a very big and an aggressive neighbor like India. These countries have to find a way, a modus vivendi, to coexist. Even though, let me tell you, China has been able to push India out of the influence of these countries in the last now 2-3 years. Its economic contact, China-India economic contact, is now far more than it was. But the fact is, because these are geopolitical locations, these countries cannot take their boundaries somewhere else. Yes, they will keep on, keeping India happy, but they will be looking towards China. Now, what has happened is that we have been talking on this forum. I think it's high time that our Prime Minister, once the COVID issue, starts reducing, he should be able to visit all these countries: Sri Lanka, Maldives, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, all these countries. He should do what Zulfikar Ali Bhutto did right in 1972. Go and visit these countries and tell them that the narrative India is painting about us is totally wrong. Let me tell you, India is facing difficulties, will continue to face difficulties. We should be able to consolidate our relationship with these countries so that their voices, they become more stronger voices in the United Nations in support of us and in the international forum. Coming down to the Kashmir, yes, the younger generation now is an indigenous uprising against. They have rejected India's domination. And for the last 1 year, they have put these people behind bars and taken thousands of people under detention. It will not resolve. If India even increases double the amount of people, security people and armed forces, army in occupied Kashmir, the Indian young people have said, that they are not willing to accept Indian domination. They keep on blaming us. They blame Pakistan. What are we doing? We will only give political moral support. It's a principal stand of Pakistan. But I tell you, the young people of Kashmir have rejected Indian, and they will not accept the Indian hegemony.
Right. Ambassador, can you please stay with us on phone call? Dr. Malik, this point is very interesting and important. I would say that Pakistan should step up its foreign policy outreach proactively. If Prime Minister can visit these countries, post COVID, that would save the day for Pakistan's foreign policy and diplomacy. What do you think about this? Visiting these countries and strengthening the relations. By the way, there was this recent phone call between Prime Minister Imran Khan and Prime Minister of Bangladesh.
Pakistan has already established contacts with all these SAARC countries, but now more frequent and proactive interaction is going on. You mentioned about Bangladesh, that is there. With Sri Lanka, we always enjoyed good relations, even with Nepal. If we look at the institution to institution level, there are a number of think tanks in Islamabad having an interaction with the think tanks of all these countries. And they have, with collective wisdom, shared knowledge, they are pursuing the agenda how to bring peace and stability in South Asia region, and what all are the challenges and how to tackle those challenges which are emanating because of the hegemonic designs of India. So we are already doing it. At the Foreign Office level, they are doing their good job. They are already in touch. They are having all those consultations. Even during the COVID days, we had interaction. Even with India, we offered them, let's have some understanding. Let's move on how to protect our own people from this menace of COVID. But as usual, India backed out. So world knows, regional country knows who is the forthcoming and who is the one not supporting the peace and dialogue to promote stability and security in the region. So Pakistan is very rightly pursuing this point, already in touch and more vigorously and proactively. Already our diplomatic channels are there, they are working, they are at full strength, and momentum is there, and all the confidence is gained with all the respective countries which Pakistan already have in connection in the region.
Dr. Rasool, do you agree with this point that of course, Pakistan is as Dr. Malik just said, that is in contact with the institutions and think tanks and all that, but more needs to be done on the diplomatic front. Having a state visit, Prime Minister visiting himself, let's say, or if there's increased people to people interaction and trade, that would strengthen the relationship and that would bring in more understanding. That is what is needed, because we cannot cede space to India. We have to counter this hegemonic design of India and this extremism that they are projecting at the moment.
No, absolutely, you are right. Definitely, the job of Foreign Office is to have an interaction with the neighboring states and states which have some sort of alignment with people. But actually, there is a great difference between wish and the capacity. You have to develop your capacity. Wish is there. Wish is that Pakistan should be a prosperous, and the terrorism should be now choked forever. And there are some sort of connections between Indian intelligence agencies and the sleeper cells in Afghanistan and in Pakistan, even in the Iran now also. But now, what is the capacity? Capacity. How
you
we
mean
will
identifying those areas?
Yeah,
in which we
identifying
can
those areas empirically. How we can move forward. Definitely, once again, you have to see through the thread of the interests. Now, there is some alignment of interests in the neighboring nations with the Pakistan now through China. If China and Pakistan relationship will govern the relationships between we people and our neighboring, even on the SAARC. And when CPEC will be the fully operative, Afghanistan and Iran will be the on board. And recently, you have seen a mega development inside of the Iran, that they have vacated Indian from the Chabahar.
Yes.
And that
Brilliant
was
project.
irritant in our security also in case of the Pakistan. Now, you might say that it is a road to peace. The nations who are along the road of the peace, they have common interests. Our direction is right. When we were ally of the America, at that time our direction was right, because that was the rising power. Now again our direction is right, that China is the rising power, because all the leading experts of the international say now it is the Asian era of the power now, and China has to import despite of all hurdles. And some evidence, empirical evidences are there of this, that now there is a new world order in which, but what we have to keep not only economic interests in priority. When we were having the relationship between Pakistan and America was at the maximum degree of the friendship, we didn't get the leverage in context of the security, that is the Kashmir issue. Now, if our bond with China is very close on the economical front, but we should keep our Kashmir at priority. And I have talked it multiple times that this is our main security concern. It should be resolved by hook or by crook.
Right. So let's come to Kashmir then, because this is the most important issue. Ambassador Kenny, this point that Kashmir is on the top of Pakistan's foreign policy agenda, there is no doubt about it. But the way India is going, abrogating 370 and 35A, and now they are giving domiciles to different people from India. They can come in and settle in Kashmir. They want to change the demographics and the language as well. So we all know that India is up to no good. How do you counter Indian aggression in occupied Kashmir, and what can we do further about this aggression from the Indian side, Pakistan, China and other countries? Ambassador, can you hear me? I think there is there's some connection with the issue with the connection. Dr. Malik, what do you think about this point?
All the happenings since August 5, 2019 onward, the developments which are taking place inside Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir, these are very closely being monitored, not only by us, but the world as well. Because for the first time, if you look at the history of this issue, the issue has been internationalized at that level that is being discussed and debated in all the important fora of the world, which is one of the success story of our diplomacy, one thing. And secondly, it is not only World Economic Forum or UN Security Council, even OIC has very openly and they have mentioned about it. Even our friendly countries like from Turkey, Tayyip Erdogan last year in UNSC spoke very openly, and Iranian president he spoke, and likewise Mahathir Mohamad he has spoken, and even once he made a remarks, they were the last of resentment in India. They asked to please review those remarks. Then he said, when we have to talk about the justice, then people have different views. Some like it and some not. But we have to speak for justice. That was a big remark. Even in the Chinese day last year. But all these developments are reflecting that we realize the priority for us so far the diplomatic scene is concerned. And you look at the international organization, human rights organization, even of late there was an organization on the religious freedom. They have highlighted and they have mentioned and recommended to White House that they look into India and its policies very closely and put some pressure on them. So all these activities are meant to internationalize the issue. And you mentioned that how to stop the aggression. So Pakistan is all doing its best, especially on the political and the moral ground.
Right.
We are providing the support and we will continue providing the support because this is not the Kashmiri's issue, this is our issue. We own it. And we will keep on supporting them on all the fora, and we will keep on projecting the issue at all the fora, and we keep doing our lobbies at all level. And this issue is being debated in UK Parliament with the in American congressmen they are debating. So all these issues, these are the evidence of convergence of one point, that how Pakistan diplomatically pursuing the issue at various fora.
That's important. Dr. Rasool, what is the situation of the indigenous resistance movement in occupied Kashmir? Because every generation in Kashmir has been fighting for their right to self-determination, and they can never suppress the Kashmiri spirit. How do you see it, this situation at the moment?
Actually, when you are, if you will calculate, it would weigh, if you will measure what we have gained and what we have lost. In gain and loss, we might say that we have been succeeded to transfer our resistance in the 5th generation. Now the current generation is the 5th generation of the movement. I will not quote the resistance leaders, but the pro-Indian leader Faisal, who was an IAS officer, he said that I was thinking that I will leave the civil services and will serve the politically, but our 5 generations have been deceived by the India. It is their comments. And same is the language of the pro-Indian leadership. Actually, if you will see the difference between the pro-resistance camp and the pro-India camp, and you will see that they are more bruised. Pro-India camp is more bruised because they are saying that we have been loyalists to India. Because I was a freedom fighter and our cause was very clear that we want to right to self-determination, then people will decide where we have to go. It is the discretion of the people. It was number one gain what we have achieved, despite we have paid a huge cost, human cost in terms of red hot blood. Number 2, indigenously, when in Pakistan in 2003, in the era of the Musharraf, in post 9/11, everything was seized along the LOC. We have been succeeded to grow our resistance movement indigenously. Now the characteristics, the face of our movement is now indigenous youth who is emotionally very much attached to his cause, despite he is in the jail or he is away side the jail. He thinks it is all jail, it is the big jail Kashmir, and my cause is my freedom. Number 3, our present leadership, who is presently caged, particularly Masrat Alam Bhatt, Asya Andrabi, Said Shabir Shah, Yasin Malik Sahab, despite they are in the jail, but the spirit of freedom in the heart and mind of the people, that is live despite there is a political vacuum. And number 4, despite India put our whole valley, our whole Jammu and Kashmir in the pressure cooker, they thought that more we will install
Pressurize
the
them.
armed forces and the military forces, we may crush the will of the people, but they failed
That's not
to
the
do
case,
so.
right.
And it is not now I am saying, it is Indian analysts themselves saying that India has failed. They are trying to resolve the effect,
Absolutely.
not the cause.
And it's been-
and she has to
Right.
resolve the cause. Effect will not matter.
Right. It's been 73 years and India has not been able to suppress the Kashmiri spirit. They will never be able to suppress the Kashmiri spirit. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Dr. Malik, pleasure having you on the show. Thank you for your time. Dr. Rasool, thank you for joining us. Pleasure having you on the show. That's all from today's dialogue. See you next time. Khuda Hafiz.